Good evening, folks. My name is John, and I want to say thank you for taking a moment out of your day, your evening, a moment of your time to listen to the words that I have to say, the thoughts and considerations that I have. It is a humbling honor that you present to me, the sacrifice that you make to hear what I have to say. You might notice that I am speaking a little bit differently as I am recording in the evening as opposed to my normal in the afternoon. As such, in those quiet times, you find that you can be a little bit more thoughtful, that your voice doesn't have to be as loud, and maybe your thought process slows down a little bit more. And there is a more subtle nuance to your thoughts. A long time ago, when I was a boy, it was said that you do not wear jeans to church. I did not understand this. I did not understand why it was so offensive to wear jeans to church. These are my clothes. What difference does it make whether I am wearing jeans or khakis or shorts? What difference does it make whether I am wearing a button-up shirt or a t-shirt with a graphic on it? These are the things that I thought about as a child. It has taken me many years to think of this, to reconcile this, to try to understand this. And I, today, have finally come up with an answer as to why. To be sure, this teaching is not explicitly stated in the Bible, much like there are many teachings that are not explicitly stated in the Bible. And there are some out there that like to wave the banner of sola scriptura, like they have a clue or understanding as to what it means in their Pharisaic legalese way. No, this teaching is not directly outlined in the Bible. Instead, this is a cultural understanding. It seems to me that when you see a man or a woman in the uniform of a police officer, you know that they are a police officer. It seems to me that when you see a man or a woman in the uniform of the firefighter, you can readily identify them as a firefighter. Likewise, when you see a doctor, when you see a judge, they are wearing the robes and the garments of their profession. When you go into a store and you are looking for someone to help you find an item, they are readily identifiable. That was a very weird way of saying it. They are readily identifiable by the vest that they wear. When you go to a car lot, you are usually greeted by somebody in some kind of professional attire of some sorts. When you buy a house, you are usually greeted by someone who is wearing some kind of attire that readily identifies them as the person whom is selling you the house. When you see a rabbi, you can readily identify him as a rabbi. When you see an imam, same thing. When you see a Catholic priest or a bishop or a cardinal or the Pope, they are readily identifiable. However, when you see a Protestant minister, one of these non-denominationals, sometimes I ask the question, am I at church Or am I at a motivational speaking session? These people oftentimes do not dress in a garb and or a fashion that signifies themselves. And the parishioners of these churches, oftentimes, it seems, no longer go wearing their Sunday best. But what difference does it make? They might ask. Jesus did not wear a suit. Well, of course he didn't. There was no Armani or Calvin Klein or Gucci or Tommy Hilfiger. There was no H&M, no Men's Warehouse back in first century Palestine. These things did not exist. However, it seems to me that in our culture, in our ways, we put more stock, more effort, more worry of presentation into a job interview than we do in going to church. This I find to be disgraceful. A friend of mine whom I love dearly, who I consider to be a brother in Christ, who has walked with me, whose respect I'd like to think I have earned. We have discussed this matter many times, and he has reminded me. He disagrees with me on many things, and that's fine. I love him nonetheless, and I'm thankful for him for challenging me, for making me think of these things. To be sure, you do not find the context of what is important to wear in Scripture. He is right. Jesus would not wear a suit. However, Jesus would not wear the robes or the attire that he had spent the day working in at a wedding feast. He would not wear those robes and attire on his way to temple. In fact, he would not wear the robes that he would work in to any kind of formal event. This is not the way that people conduct themselves, to be sure. Oftentimes, no matter how humble, no matter how simple the attire may be, a separate set of robes and attire would be available. For the ancient Jew understood that when you are approaching the temple, when you are approaching the Holy of Holies, that you ought do so with reverence and humility, that you wear the appropriate attire to the synagogues, to the wedding feast, to show respect and courtesy. I would not wear my soiled jeans to a wedding feast. Indeed not. A formal black tie event when we get ready and dressed in order to honor the bride and the bridegroom, I would wear, as would you, something nice, something that honors the celebration. This is a cultural construct. It does not need to be stated. This is just something that we do. There is an understanding about this. And the Messiah, Yeshua of Nazareth, understood this. He gave us a parable about it. He said to us something along the lines of, if a man is invited to a wedding and he is not wearing the appropriate attire, he would get kicked out. Now, granted, this is referring to something else. However, As a metaphor of cultural understanding, it would seem to me that even the common man understood the importance of dressing appropriately for the ceremony. And we do not do that anymore. We have preachers and parishioners who walk into church as if they are walking into their living rooms. They do not honor the space. They do not honor the Lord. They wear shorts and sandals. They wear common clothing that they would wear as if they were working on their car. And sometimes the justification is, well, my $100 shorts or my $100 sandals or my $100 sneakers somehow justify my presentation. But there is a problem with this, because you can have a $100 pair of sneakers, but I can't imagine the mentality of the type of person who would wear a $100 pair of sneakers to a wedding. I would question the mentality of somebody who wears the $100 pair of jeans to a black tie event. And it seems to me anymore, celebrities seem to go to these black tie events wearing whatever it is that they wear without showing the slightest bit of honor or courtesy to the event or the establishment. Now, my friend also said something very interesting to me. Young people don't trust suits. That's a very interesting thought and consideration. And in many cases, I would agree. Oftentimes, you hear people say, it is the suit that makes the man. But this is not true, and this is false. For it is the man who wears the suit. It is the man who fills the suit. And I can tell you this now, there are many men out there who can't even wear the beards that grow on their faces. And if these men cannot wear the beards that grow on their faces, how can they be expected to wear the suits that cover their bodies? And yet here they are trying to portray an image that they do not possibly understand, that they cannot possibly understand. For all they are trying to do is be imitators of an ideal that they can't even reconcile with themselves. It is nothing more than a superficial attire, little more than a surface level motif. They do not understand what the meaning of the beard is, little more than they understand the meaning of the suit and the attire. And I can tell you this, people can spot a fake a mile away. And perhaps growing up for many years of seeing many men who wear fancy suits, and all they are is an external expression of their own selves, I can say this, I don't blame a lot of young people for not trusting suits. But that brings up something else, is that there is an assumption that has got me rejected from an institution, that respect must be given out, doled out like candy. And I say this, respect is something that must be earned. Though you wear the suit or the robes, that at least gives me the understanding of whom you are, of who you are. However, you are not entitled to my respect. It should be an indicator of who you are, but you still have to earn my respect. And I still have to earn yours. Just because I wear a suit does not mean that I am automatically alleviated in your eyes. It should be It should be at the very least an indicator of who I am and what I stand for, and the respect and adoration that I wish to give, the honor that I wish to convey. It becomes a very interesting argument. Do I wear the clothes to show off, or do I wear the clothes because I want to honor the Lord? Do I walk into his house, into his temple, saying, here I am, I'm good enough for you, yeah? Well, sure, of course you are. You're here. But how do you honor the Lord? Indeed, we spend more money and more effort on our gadgets and gizmos, on our toys and our things, than we do regarding our attire as we go to worship. I am reminded that even the Jew during Shabbat wears special clothes around the table. There is a tradition behind this. Do I wear the clothes to show everybody how pious I am? Or do I wear the clothes in order to show my devotion to God? And this is a fine line of consideration. Fine line of consideration. When I was a boy, I did not understand why it was inappropriate for me to wear jeans and work boots. Or maybe, back in those days, sneakers. But today I understand. Those are the clothing that you wear when you work and when you play. That is the clothing that you wear when you go to the gym, when you work on your car. And to be sure, to be quite sure, if that is all I had to give and that is all I had for the Lord, then the Lord would say, I see what you give me and offer me. You give me all that you have. But if I had the opportunity to give a little bit more, if I had the understanding that I am going to the Lord's house of worship in the bride of Christ, that in a sense I am going to the reenactment of that wedding feast, where the pastor is the bridegroom and I am part of the bride, then should I not dress appropriately as if I were going to a wedding? People would say, what would Jesus do? And I have long thought about this. If the family came in, poor, and this is all they had, what would the Messiah, Yeshua of Nazareth, do? I will tell you what he would do. He would do what he did for the disciples. He would bend over. He would wash their feet and their clothes. And he would put on them new robes. That is what he would do. And that is what he does do with us. For even our attire is important in heaven, as it is said. He will wash our robes and purify us, make us clean. Indeed, there is something important about the external expression, because these metaphors would not be understood if they had no cultural context. But because there is a cultural context of appropriate attire, I can say too that I now understand why I am guilty and why I have been guilty. For I have worn my boots and my jeans to church, to the metaphorical wedding ceremony, and I am guilty. I do not honor the Lord enough. I do not honor the event enough. I wear the clothing that I would to work in because it's okay. But I see the Jew, I see the Muslim, I see the Buddhist, I see the Hinduist, I see the Native American, I see the Catholic priest, I see the Orthodox, I see people in churches, poor churches, and though they have little, they shame me in that their attire is set aside to honor the Lord because they understand the importance of it. It oftentimes seems to me that the only time we care to wear anything more than our good enough clothing are during those holidays that would cause us to dress a little bit nicer, to put on that which used to be normal, our Sunday best. Another friend of mine has been coming to church with me as of late. And since day one, since he has started coming, he has come in nice dress pants, with a nice tie and a clean and pressed shirt. And I sit beside him ashamed. He honors the Lord, and he honors the house of worship. No, it's not a hell-worthy trespass. However, I will ask this question. How do we honor the Lord when we walk into his house? Do we think less of him than we would the job interview or the wedding feast? I think there is a greater metaphor to this lesson, to this teaching, to this understanding. And though my friend might very well disagree with me, and that's fine, these are the thoughts and considerations I have regarding that. I hope I spoke clearly for you. I hope you heard my words. And I hope that I left you something to think about and consider. Until next time, I wish to say thank you for listening to my words. Good day, and God bless.